Alright, welcome to part 2 of our introduction into Rhino 3D. So for this section of the video, I'm going to kind of just go over the toolbar on top. It's very helpful. It can kind of be a bit difficult to use just because when we click on stuff, there's just so many options for tools, and trying to find everything can kind of be pretty tough if you don't know where to start. So I'm just going to go over some of the tools we're going to be using a lot in this class. Some tips and tricks, stuff like that. So maybe just to get us started, I'm just going to draw a simple shape. And I'm just going to use this throughout the video to kind of show some different things that we can do with it. Alright, so like we can go to our perspective view, we can see the shape that I drew here. It's not really anything, it's just kind of a blob that I extruded up. And we have a rectangle from the last video here as well too. So the first thing we're going to do in our toolbar, we're just going to go left to right and kind of work through the ones we're going to use the most. So I'm going to go over the edit one here. So we have 4 pretty helpful tools right here. Cut, copy, paste, and delete. So I'm going to go over copy first. So we can hit this, or we can use the Command C shortcut. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Command C shortcut, and I'm just going to copy this, Command C. Sorry, I want to copy the whole object here. So I'm going to do the extrusion, Command C, and then I'm going to paste it with Command V. So now there should be 2. Move that one out there. So now you can see I did copy and paste, Command C, Command V. I copied this one, I moved it out. Now we have 2 of them. And we have our delete tool and our cut tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select the one that I copied and just do delete. As you can see, I can delete the whole thing there. So those are really helpful just when we're moving lots of stuff around, if we need to create multiple objects, if we did something wrong, how to delete it. So we'll be using those quite a bit. Control points on. So what a control point is you saw at the beginning, and didn't really explain what I was doing, so we're going to go over that in great detail later on. But control points are just the little dots I use to draw that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn control points on for this one. Done. So you can see here I get all the control points I used to draw this image, and now that I have them on, I can move them out. Obviously it doesn't move the extrusion along with it, but I can change that curve with the control points on. So that's really helpful to kind of edit things we create. We can make it just perfect by moving these control points around. So as you can see here, I moved the control points. I'm just going to show you in perspective view so you can see. So we have our extrusion here, which is just an object that we created. And we have our outline on the bottom, and I moved control points. So now we're going to go over how to undo that. Say I accidentally moved all these control points and I want to get it back. So we're just going to do undo drag, which is Command Z. So I'm just going to go ahead and select Command Z until I get it back to where we originally were. So now I have everything back. Again, Command Z, undo, a very helpful tool. There's a lot of trial and error involved in this program, so we're definitely going to make a lot of mistakes, and just being able to go back easily really helps out a lot. I'm going to go ahead and just turn these control points off now. So I'm just going to go to control points off, and now they're off. Now there's nothing to select. I can't really alter that outline on the bottom. So those are some of the most common tools we're going to use under Edit. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into View. Just going to get all 4 corners back here. And one of the tools that we might have to use a couple times, just mistakenly messing things up, will be Set View Camera. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to accidentally mess up our top view here. So I'm going to go to our Rotate tool. So this view, as it says here, is supposed to be our top view. We're supposed to be looking down perfectly on the object. And as you can see, I accidentally moved it, and now it's not in the top view anymore, so it's going to be pretty difficult to draw things perfectly along with that grid. So if I want to fix that, I'm just going to go into View, and I'm going to go to Set View, back to Top, because that's what it should be. And now we're back perfectly to where we need to be. You see top view is now looking straight down on the object again. So that's pretty helpful, just if we kind of mess things up. It's an easy way to get back to where we need to be. Sometimes there are options where we will need to change the view that we're working in so that we can draw things properly. I don't think we're going to need to do that during our first guitar, so we're not going to go over that in this tutorial. Another tool that we're going to use is Grid Options, which is right here. So this, we're going to use grid options and units quite a bit in here. So when we're looking at this, we get the grid line count. So if I just kind of zoom out, move this over here. So the grid line count is the total number of lines on our grid, including the small lines. And they're in a measurement of millimeters. And we get a major line every 10. So obviously the bigger ones here, you can see my arrows pointing to. These are major lines. And if we zoom in, you see, zoom in a little bit more, there are 10 lines in between. So all of the small lines represent a millimeter. Every big one represents 10 millimeters. Units, we can change our units. So I'm just going to keep this one in millimeters for now, but you can see we have a lot of different options for measurements here. We're basically going to stick to millimeters, centimeters, and we might use inches a little bit. Kind of just sets up the tolerances depending on what you do, so we're just going to keep tolerances. I'm going to X out of that. So those are basically the only 2 tools I think we're going to have to use during our guitar demonstration under View. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Curve. So in here, first I'm just going to explain what a curve is. So a curve is what they call basically a line. Any form of line. It can be straight, it can be a shape, it can meet, it doesn't have to meet. And I'm going to go into perspective view, and I'm going to show you some of the different things we can do with our curve tool. So we can do line segments, just like so, one single line. So we just drew one straight line there. We can do polylines, so that's multiple points on a line. Press enter to finish. So you can see that's the difference. This one is just 2 points on a line, this one is multiple points, poly meaning multiple. And then as we go down, we start getting more and more options for shapes. So I'm just going to quickly go over a rectangle. Just to kind of show you some of the tools we have, so we can easily and quickly create a rectangle. If we wanted to, we could also use the polyline tool to create a rectangle, but the tool will do it a lot quicker and more precisely than we could draw it out. We have things like circles and arcs, and we have different options for how to create a circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a 2-point circle inside of our rectangle here, and you see it automatically snaps to the edges here. So I'm going to go ahead and make one that fits perfectly in here from this point to this point. So easily, quickly draw a circle. We can also do things like arcs. So I'm not going to get these lines after, I'm just going to get the completed arc. So it's a perfect arc there. And we just have a bunch of different options for basically just different shapes and curves we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to quickly draw a 90-degree angle here with our polyline tool. I'm just going to go over the fillet tool. So I'm going to do fillet curves. I'm just going to go ahead and select that. Oh, did it pretty fast there. Curve, fillet curve. So what a fillet is it adds a rounded edge to this 90-degree edge here. So I'm going to go ahead and select fillet curve, select the curve I want to do it to. I can change the radius in millimeters. So right now it's going to make it a 2 millimeter long fillet. So let's say I want to make this 5. Select the curve. Now you can see I have a 5 millimeter long fillet. Nice, perfectly smooth, rounded edge. So there are basically just a lot of tools in here that allow us to draw shapes and curves really quickly. We can connect curves, stuff like that. But I'm just going to basically finish up there. That's kind of all we're really going to use for these tools when we're drawing our guitars. I'm going to go ahead and highlight all those and just press delete, and now those are gone. I'm going to go over the surface tools. So for that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw another shape, kind of like the first one I drew. Kind of an oblong circle. I'm going to use this to kind of show you what a surface is. So if a curve is just our line on here, I can even shade everything so we can see. So we have solids here, a surface here, and this is just a curve, so there's nothing in it. If I want to create this in the surface, basically it's just going to connect everything inside of the curve here. So I can do things like surface, I can do a patch, which will patch everything inside of this closed curve network. So a curve network, it means just this curve closes completely, so there's not an opening in it. Press done. Okay, so now if we go to shaded, you can see this is a completely closed curved network. Everything inside of here is now solid. I can't see through it in any way. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. So now I'm just going to go over quickly how to extrude a surface like I did on this one. So basically what extruding is it is taking a two-dimensional curve, so this is just a drawing if we look at it basically, and we're going to create it into a 3D object like this one over here. So I'm going to go to surface, and I'm going to extrude our curve. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this curve straight. So select the curve. I selected the curve I wanted to extrude. As you can see here, looking at it in 3 dimensions, I can extrude it above our plane, below our plane, to any height I want. I can type in exactly what I want. So I'm going to make this one the same as the other at 25 millimeters tall. So there it is, I extruded it. We can look at it shaded. So this is just a surface, not a solid. So that means I just extruded this surface here. It's not a complete solid object like this one over here. I'm going to go ahead and undo this so I can show you different type of surface extrusions. So we can do extrude to a point, So as you saw, I extruded my surface to a point there. Go ahead and undo that. So we can do a tapered extrusion. As you can see, it tapers down, smaller at the bottom, larger at the top. And now I'm going to show you a pretty cool one, which allows us to extrude along a curve. I'm going to go ahead and move this one over so it's a bit out of the way. I'm going to go to the front view and I'm just going to draw a simple curve going up. Make sure my curve is kind of located in the middle there. So I'm going to look at this through the perspective view. So as you can see, I drew a curve along the z-axis going up. It kind of goes up this weird pathway here, turns, and goes up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a surface extruded along a curve. So I'm just going to shade that one out here. So as you can see, I extruded the object up along the curve the entire way. And again, this isn't a solid object, you can see through it, so it kind of looks like a pretty awesome water slide, I think. You can see through it the whole way. So those are just some of the different extruding techniques we use with curves. Go ahead and move these ones back. So we did patch, we did extrude. Those are kind of the two most common ones we're going to use while making these guitars. So we're just going to go ahead and go on to solid right now. So I'm just going to kind of move over to an open space here. And I'm going to go over creating solids. So the one we just did was a surface. It means we could look through it. When we create solids, it is completely solid. And when I go to shaded viewport, you can see we can't see anything through it. It's completely solid. I'll go ahead and keep the shaded on there. So again, there's just a bunch of different tools for different kinds of shapes that we can do here. There's just a ton that we can try out. So let's do a sphere. 2-point sphere. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw this. 2-point sphere just makes a perfect sphere there, as you can see. Again, these tools just do it very quickly, very easily, create shapes. We can move them so they are inside of each other. Again, just a ton of different shapes we can do. I'm not going to go over every one. You can try that on your own, see what the shapes are, how they work. Again, I'm going to go over how to extrude a solid. So I'm going to go back to my drawing that we're using earlier over here. And I'm going to extrude this as a solid instead of a surface now. So extrude, planar curve, straight, selected it. I'm going to go ahead and type 25 millimeters in again. As you can see now, instead of being able to see through this, it's a complete solid. So we just made this into a solid object rather than a surface. Go ahead and undo that. move the sphere out from here. Another technique that we're going to use quite a bit is called filleting the edge. You saw me do it with a curve. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it on a solid object. So I'm going to go, I want to fillet the edge of this cube here. So this is obviously a solid. So I'm going to go to the solid toolbar, fillet edge, and I'm going to select just one edge. I'm going to go ahead and do two edges that I want to fillet here. Let's say I want to fillet them 2 millimeters. Press done. You can preview it. So as you can see here, let's just zoom in a bit. So whereas the other one was filleting our single line, this is filleting an entire surface. Go ahead and press done, and now we have a nice, perfectly rounded edge. The corner is nice and perfect there. It only filleted the two surfaces we told it to. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a chamfer edge on this side, just to show you the difference. So I'm going to go solid, fillet, and I'm going to go chamfer edge. So where a fillet is nice and round, a chamfer is kind of a hard cutoff. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. I'm going to make this one 4 millimeters. Press done. Preview it so you can see this one is a straight cutoff, whereas the other one was nice and rounded. So I'm going to select done. I'm going to show you the difference between the two. So fillet edge, nice and round. Chamfer edge here is just perfectly straight. So that's a filleting edge tool. We're going to use that quite a bit in making guitars. I'm going to show you one more section of filleting the edges, called creating a handle. So I'm going to go solid, fillet edge, do just one edge here. And add two handles. I'm going to go ahead and change how deep they are. So as you can see, I changed the fillet depth there. Go ahead and look at that. So I made the fillet a lot deeper here. So we have 2 millimeters here, and I made it about 6 millimeters there. So we can change how much of the edge we are filleting. I'm going to go back up to our toolbar here. We're going to skip mesh for right now. We're not going to really use that a lot when we're creating our guitars. I'm going to go straight to dimension. There's one tool in here that we're going to use quite a bit, and it's called linear dimension. So what that allows us to do is just select anything on our grid. Got it from here, go to here, and it'll give us an exact measurement of how long it is. So this is 19.78 millimeters long. You can press enter and it'll stay on, or we can get rid of it. That's really helpful for just allowing us to measure things, get exact measurements of what the sizes they are. The last tool we're going to go over is transform. So we have a bunch of really helpful tools up here. The move tool, very helpful. Select an object. We can select a point on the object, so I'm going to select the corner, and I can just go ahead and move that object like that very precisely. I can copy an object, and move it around, add multiple objects. So that's really helpful if you have something like you're designing a building and you're putting chairs in the building and you don't want to draw them out over and over, you can just quickly copy and paste them all over your drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. Rotate. So again, another really helpful tool. I'm going to go ahead and do it on our original rectangle here. Select it. So I'm going to select the point of rotation. So I'm going to select the end here. Final point of rotation will be right here. Now we can rotate it anywhere we want. Or we can type it in. Say I want to rotate it 90 degrees. Press done. It rotated it along the x-axis up to the y-axis. Perfect 90 degrees. We can rotate it in 3D as well. So same thing. Select the point you want to start with. Finish point. And then how you want to rotate it. So say I want to roll this. You can go ahead and roll it like such. So I rolled that from up until down. I'm going to undo that so you can see the changes I made. So right now it's sitting on its side. Undo, that's where it was before. We can scale in 2D and 3D, so I'm going to go ahead and do a 3D scale first, and I'll show you a 2D scale after. So I'm going to select the object I want to scale. Our rectangle here, done. Select 2 points on it. Now we can go ahead and I can make the whole thing bigger, smaller. So I'm scaling this in 3D. So I made it bigger. I'm going to do a 2D scale. So I'm going to use this object over here because this is a two-dimensional object. I'm going to transform, scale in 2D, select my object, press enter, select 2 points on it. I'm going to go ahead and scale it like such. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So that's a two-dimensional scale. And the final one we're going to go over is mirror. So I'm going to select an object I want to mirror. So I'm going to do this here. And say I want it to be touching here. Go ahead and flip that. So now I have a perfect mirror of this. Go ahead and delete that. That's really helpful if you're drawing something like freehand in a sketch, like a body of a guitar, and you draw one side of the guitar, and then you want the other side of the guitar to be an exact mirror of that. Using that tool, you can just quickly mirror it, and it'll be a perfect mirror image of what you drew. And the last thing I'm going to go over in this top toolbar is the help button. So this is honestly generally how I navigate Rhino 3D most often. So by now I kind of know the commands of what all the tools are, but I kind of forget where they are sometimes. So I just usually go to help, and in search I just go ahead and type in, like I'm asking it a question of what I want it to do. So if I want to do scale, type in scale, and then everything that's related to scale will come up here. So I can go through, and it gives me some different options for scale. So this is just a very quick way to kind of navigate this top taskbar. So I'm going to do one that's a bit more difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and do line. So as you can see, I got a ton of different line tools here, but it shows me which section they're under. So right now, these are all under curve. So we go here, linear dimension, because it has the word line in it. It gives me that. I generally use this basically all the time in here. It's just a quick and easy way to navigate the top taskbar. So yeah, again, just to highlight what we did today, we went over kind of the top taskbar in Rhinoceros 3D. We drew a couple of shapes to kind of demonstrate some of the things we can do with our tools here. So in our next video, we're going to go over the side taskbars here and some of the shortcuts that those have for us.